video.
Okay, my name is Lieblong. I'm with the Arkansas Small Business and Technology Development Center. So some of you probably know who we are, but we are affiliated with the SBA and the University of Arkansas, and we provide one-on-one consulting services. And probably what's most important to a lot of bankers in the room is that we help people prepare for financing and loan applications. We can also help people with a variety of other things, whether it's marketing, managing finances, stuff like that, that doesn't have anything to do with starting a new business. So we welcome you to refer clients to us, people that come to you that are looking for financing, or people that just need help with their small business.
I'm Bill Fox. I used to work with Lord in the SBT, so I know a couple. Good to see you. I work for Forge, FORGE. It stands for Financing Ozarks Rural Growth and Economies. We're a community development finance institution, nonprofit, SBA, micro intermediary. For such a small organization, we have a lot of names, you know. But we kind of try to fill a gap in terms of financing, in terms of access to capital, provide that access for folks who traditionally have barriers to get traditional sources.
My name is Gilbert Rodriguez. I work for Arbus Bank, the Small Business Banking Division, and very happy to be here and be able to participate today. I brought in a couple of my co-workers also to help out with the questions and answers. James Brooker is here, and Simone.
Good afternoon, my name is Josh Vasquez. I am the VP Community Outreach Officer with Encore Bank. Much like Bill, my role with Encore is to kind of help bridge the gap with the community. As we all know, financial institutions serve a purpose. They have a regulation that we need that we also try to keep in mind with the CRA. And so my goal is to kind of help create a bridge there and also continue to grow and develop and look at establishing maybe perhaps new policy to be able to continue to come up with ways to help the underserved, underbanked communities.
My name is JD Chambliss. I am probably what you consider more traditional lender, primarily commercial. I do some consumer real estate for First Security Bank, and just starting to dip my toe into a little bit of SBA stuff. So I might learn as much as anybody else here today.
Okay, this is great. I just want to thank all of you for being here. I intend to share this recording with every single person that comes into my office looking for financing. So I've got some good questions. I'm going to try to ask you the things that come across my desk so people can hear from the first panel. So would each of you kind of talk about the ideal loan candidate and type of business and position like that for your banks that may be different for each bank?
I'll let the banks.
Well, thank you.
Whatever, yeah, and I want to hear from all of you, because it's a different perspective, and you've got different lending institutions, so please.
Right, so the division that I represent is on the small business side. Every customer is going to be different, right? Every situation is going to be different. But for the most part, if they have talked to you already, the customer probably has developed a business plan. So it has a more concrete idea of what the business is going to look like. For the most part, the referrals that I get from you, the customer has been instructed a little bit of what the requirements are going to be, which we're going to be looking into different areas. A lot of times, the stuff that we need to overcome is the experience, right? What kind of experience do they have? Do they have a recurring secondary source of income? So we're going to be looking into their finances. For the most part, if it's a brand new startup, you're going to try to rely on their personal income to do that. So every case is going to be different. It's just a matter of getting the opportunity to sit down with the customer. But pretty standard, of course, you know, we pull credit. We'll look at the financials. We'll look at the experience. We'll talk collateral for sure and everything, but each experience can be unique for sure. So it's very difficult to define just one process. So, and I'll chime in more later. Somebody else go on that.
Yeah, so, for, say, a traditional bank loan, typically we're looking for somebody that's been in business, at least a couple of years, has some kind of history. As Gilbert mentioned, we'll look at their business financials, personal financials, take a look at, what we might be able to take as collateral, whether it be real estate, whatever. But from a traditional standpoint, it's more of a business that has actually been in business for at least 2 to 3 years. And then if not, we're fairly new to SBA, but for say a startup, that's more in the SBA box.
Yeah, and I think we, Uncle Bank at this time, we have a lot of similarities in some of the things that we're looking for. We can look at different types of collateral, and then it goes back to one of the really important things that I think we'll all agree is relationships. Having a great relationship, getting to know who your customers are, understanding what their business plan and what they're trying to accomplish is definitely one of the key components of attaining to attain a loan capital. Whether they have, FF&E, furniture, fixtures, and equipment, or we're looking at accounts payables, we're looking at different options, just understanding where they're at. Much like you said, we at this time, typically we are looking for at least 2 years of history, so that we can kind of see and what was their history before that, and be able to develop a relationship from that moment on.
Great answers. I don't know if I can. Our ideal customer, 800 credit score, no debt, hundreds of thousands. What's the assets?
I need a loan.
That's a great question. I never really thought of it. Our mission really is to serve underestimated communities. And like I said before, we try to fill a niche. Our biggest loan we make is $50,000. So we're not competing with banks or anything like that. Usually we get a lot of referrals from banks, honestly. They get a client into their office and they maybe have on the borderline in terms of credit, in terms of collateral, in terms of assets, things like that. They can't make the loan for whatever reason, and they send them to us. And because we're not a bank, we're a nonprofit, all we do is loans. It's it. We don't do deposits, we don't do CDs, we don't do mortgages. And we do technical assistance too, but that's essentially what we're there for, is to make loans. So we can be a little more, and we need to be a little more flexible in terms of how we go about it. We look at the same criteria that you all do. We pull their credit, we look at see what kind of assets they have to pledge as collateral. We look at the business. We do startups. We don't love doing startups. It depends on the size of the loan. Like you said, it depends on the situation. Every situation is different. Every borrower is different. Every business is different. So we try to take, kind of a more holistic approach to it because of the kind of clients we work with. And, I think we do a pretty good job as far as, because our default rates are very low. We're a small organization. We're bigger than we were, but we're still pretty small. There's only 6 or 8 of us all over the state. So I think because of that, and because we're able to offer that kind of, personal sort of, from the ground up service, that people don't want to not pay us back because we take it very personally. But it's surprising because you would think, based on who we serve, that our default rate would be, fairly significant. So it's pretty gratifying to see that. And Lori's been a great source of referrals for us. Having somebody go to Lori or somebody at the ASBTC for us is a huge green flag, okay? Because that means they're taking this project seriously because they're seeking out the assistance from one of the many resources we have here in Northwest Arkansas. And that just gives us another level of comfort, So when we pull the credit, when we look at the financials and we do those types of things, and they're kind of a little squishy, the fact that they went to see Lori or one of her colleagues or any other of the SBTDC offices throughout the state gives us a little more of a comfort level. So, you can say we're a little more subjective than, a bank. You can't be that upset. You're a business, and we get that. But, like I said, I think we try to fill that gap. Hopefully we can continue doing so.
Okay, so what we do in order to prepare people for going to a bank is we help them write a really straightforward business plan. We like to do a lot of strong market analysis before we even get to that process, to make sure that there's actually a viable market for a business concept that someone has. And then we put together 3 years worth of not overly complicated financial projections. Is there anything else you guys like to see, and maybe if you want to get into details of personal finances, that is important in a loan application?
Well, if you don't mind, we, just like any lender, we look at other income, especially if the business is a startup or an early stage business where cash flow is not flowing yet. Are there other sources of income? Is there recourse for us to take? So, and that's not always, but we try to make it the case as much as possible. So that and a business plan is important too. Like I said, just due to the fact that they've kind of fleshed out their idea with a third party. And I know, you look at these things very closely and, offer and redline them and do all kinds of things just to make people think, and I think that's the main thing that people are so intent on writing this, masterpiece of a business plan that they forget the real reason they're not writing a business plan is to go through the process and uncover things they may not have thought about in the first place. So I always told people, the plan, isn't the important thing. It's the planning that's the important thing, because that's what gets you to think. So as long as they're thinking, and that's something you help. That's a big help.
I would say, Lori, in addition to, the strength that the business plan gives the customer, being able to, because I know you guys had that conversation about credit and how do they stand as far as their personal situation, what their experience looks like, being able to coach your potential customer at that point. All right, where do you stand now? Someone that is relatively new in credit is going to have had a hard time or a harder time than someone that is experienced, right? As you mentioned earlier in the form of a joke, right? 800 no debt, it's going to be different than 400 with a lot of debt. So in addition to the plan, I think it's important to touch base on where do they actually stand, even before they come in to see an option for the finance. So.
Yeah, I agree. Those are very good answers. Just, really just understanding their background and what kind of experience they've had in the industry. If they are a mechanic and they come in and they want to open a restaurant for the first time, well, how do we tackle that? How do we communicate? Why do they feel the need to open a restaurant? And then try to help identify that transition point, and can we support it? Is there other potential guarantors that might be willing to come into the picture to help us put this big scenario together? So just understanding that we want to help them. Our goal is to help them reach their financial dreams, to be able to have whatever it is they're trying to establish, their business plan. We're not here to say no to them. it may be yes, but not right now. It may be that we just have to go through a process of time to be able to get from point A to point B. But certainly just understanding their overall needs and how they plan to get there.
Yeah, I mean, I think they covered it pretty well. You know, I mean, on a new business, I think it would probably come down to, what other sources of income do they have? What's their personal balance sheet look like? What kind of cash reserves do they have? How are they going to keep themselves and the business afloat in the early on? When the business may not be generating as much income as they might hope, or as it will later on down the road.
So I had a former banker colleague that I worked with quite a bit, and she always told me to send clients to her early in the process. She's like, they don't have to have everything banked. The business plan doesn't have to be done. The financials don't have to be done. They can walk in and just talk to us. Unlike some people in the small business world, bankers do not charge to spend time with clients, like one of the few people. So I just want to hear y'all's take on that. What are your feelings on that?
We can go backwards, Steve.
Okay. No, I actually have a really good example. Yesterday I had a customer that I don't know, he just happened to call my branch. He had nothing more than an idea of building a manual car wash in Pea Ridge, which I guess is a need out there. And like I said, he had nothing more than an idea. And, I kind of talked, he just wanted to know, what's it look like? He never borrowed money for commercial needs before. I talked through financial aspect of it, personal, business, a business plan, what's, that for me to actually move forward on something like that, I'm gonna need some numbers as much as how much it's gonna cost or estimates. And I talked through different scenarios with him, letting him know LTV, loan to value, which we can lend up to 85% on commercial property like that. But just kind of gave him a little bit of a guideline on, what we would need to actually start that process. And what it would look like once we got into it. But he gave me nothing more than idea, and after 30 minutes, I think that he walked away from it at least feeling a little bit better about what he needs to do.
No, I agree, and I would have to say that I agree with the banker that you referred to. I think it allows us a couple things. It allows us time to really think this through. Because we don't expect everybody to be a subject matter expert on what we do. They're at the bank for a reason, and our goal is to be there, to be the subject matter experts. So to be able to walk through this step, maybe perhaps uncover some things that might have been missed, like Bill said, just being able to think through the whole process, it's important. So understanding that there's certain loan to values, there's certain thresholds to be able to do that. I think that that's a very smart, and I would highly encourage, anybody that's thinking about seeking out a loan to maybe go ahead and schedule a meeting. See, at least they can have confirmation that they're on the right path. So I believe that's a good idea.
Great.
In addition to what has been said, I think I enjoy in our division being able to sit down with the customer right at the early stage as they're working with you towards having a more concrete idea of what their business is going to look like. A lot of times it's more of breaking the ice of what exactly is it that I'm getting into. So I call it like, let's look at the big picture, right? What is this baby going to cost you? Right? Your idea is going to be kind of like a newborn. So we don't charge, as you said. And like building that rapport with the person at that point in the stage of the business launch is critical for a lot of folks. The times that we live in, anybody can Google anything, but that personal interaction is something that is valuable at any stage, I would say. And so it's very well.
I agree. I think forming that relationship early on is super important. Because you're going to be working together intimately. You're going to know this person across the desk from the borrower is going to know pretty much everything about it. So you have to have that level of comfort. So I think, shopping around, just like anything else, when you shop around for a good doctor, a good lawyer, a good lender, whatever. But I do think it's important. We don't get a lot of that at our, we have one office, it's in Huntsville, and even people in Huntsville run our offices. So we get a lot of people walking in. We do get a lot of phone calls from people who have ideas and ask about loans, and very often, we'll send them to the ASB TDC. We'll answer any questions they have, obviously, because most of the people we talk to are way not familiar with the commercial lending process. So we try to educate them as much as we possibly can. And I think, but I think that that relationship. And I love what you said too about the big picture. And I love that analogy about the baby too. The only difference is the baby will suck you dry financially for 30 years or so. Trust me, I speak from experience. The business hopefully will do the other thing and provide you with value and make you, a living. But you have to look at it through that lens. Is this thing that I'm going to do, is this money I'm going to borrow, is this going to create value for me? Or is it just going to, and look, it's a ton of risk. Anytime you start a small business, there's no yes or no. You try to be as prepared as you can. And that's what separates, entrepreneurs from everybody else who really take risk, right? But it has to be a calculated risk, and accessing the resources that are available is super. And just talking. I always recommend people talk to other people in the same business that they're going into, because I think there's no better resource. And then, they'll steal my idea. So what? Your idea isn't all that great anyway. So no, I rarely said that. But you know what I mean, right? So if somebody steals their idea, okay, it doesn't mean they're gonna do it any better than you can do. All right. So don't worry about that. Just worry about creating as much value as you can for you, the community, and all of your stakeholders. And I think what you said is really important. And I think a lot of times we look at the immediacy of what they're going to use the money for, right? Well, I need to pay my suppliers. I need to get inventory. But is it really going to create value in the long run? It's impossible to say yes or no. But you have to kind of have that mindset.
Okay, so I would like, and whoever wants to address these things can, a little bit of information for our clients about SBA loans, conventional loans. So we don't have a whole lot of time, and we could take 2 days on SBA loans. But if you could give some information on just the different types of loans. And then something I have experienced working with lenders is that people will get loan packages that is kind of conglomerate of lots of different types of loans. And so I try to, or different types of loans into one package. And so if somebody could kind of elaborate on that.
You're looking at me.
No, I think it's kind of few.
From the institution that I represent, SBA is not the only viable option. It is an option that we take if it fits the customer's need. So it's a variety of products that we have for sure. If any of you have worked in an SBA loan, it's a lot of paperwork, right, for the customer, and providing the opportunity to work alongside them. It's important. Right? So we do have the choices where we have the regular loans and we have other loans. James, would you like to enhance a little bit on the answer to that?
Well, I just reminded that SBA preferred lender.
Yeah.
So that helps us with processing the SBA request. So, but yeah, more to your point, you can pivot to the conventional or the SBA side, but if you're working with the bank as a preferred lender, that's definitely streamlines some of the process.
And to James' point, it's very important for the customer, right, that they know that when they come to us, we are, experts on the subject, right? We have a dedicated team that will not only ask them what they need, but we'll walk them through the process and how. So it's very important.
Okay, so another question I would have is, what advice do you have for people that are wanting to do some kind of financing to start business and maybe they're a little bit farther out? They're kind of interested in a business concept. What can people do to prepare to successfully obtain financing ahead of time? We get people, I get a lot of people that, okay, maybe the advice is in the next year working on the credit score, or, okay, we need to flesh out your business idea. Or you need to save up more cash and come back in 6 months when you have the cash for loans. So I'm just curious to hear from you guys what you would say to clients that come in, maybe they're not quite ready, but they can be prepared.
It's a tough one because so many people, business, like I said before, small businesses are very risky. And I'm not a huge fan of people borrowing $150,000 or $200,000 to start a business. Okay. The only reason I'm saying that is because I've seen it. I've seen what can happen. I used to work at the ASBTC and I helped a lot of clients get loans, just like Lori does now. And I go back and visit them a couple of years later, and they're flat. So I beg them to understand that whether the business cash flows or not, you still have to pay this thing back, okay? No matter what, they will come after you, and it's not going to be pretty, okay? So I just want them to know that it's not a walk in the park, and people, they hear SBA guarantee, and it's like, oh, well, government's going to pay it off. Yeah, they will, but you still have to pay it back yourself. So if you don't want to put yourself in some kind of catastrophic financial condition, if you can avoid it, okay, that's my advice. And I know I'm supposed to make loans, okay, that's my job. But I don't always tell people, yeah, you got to do this. More often than not, I'll tell people, are you sure you want to do this? Let's go over the numbers, okay? Just recently, I was out in another part of Arkansas, and I was looking at the numbers, not necessarily the business, because they haven't started the business yet. So you do projections, and they are what they are. I was looking at their personal financial situation. Told them, you're going to have to pay this $850 for the business. Can you do it? Oh, yeah, of course. Of course they're going to say yes. I said, well, think about it. And we'll go over it again next week and we'll reevaluate. They ended up not doing it right now. Like you said, it's the timing right. The timing just isn't right. So thankfully they didn't do it. Right. So I think, yeah, most of my job involves helping people to get loans, but I think a lot of it also involves getting people to think about whether or not they should do it. Because our clients may be a little different than traditional banking clients. They're a little on the edge already, So we may have to be a little more careful sometimes. Just in $50,000, it doesn't sound like a lot of money when you're loaning people $500,000. But to the people we loan $50,000 to, it's a lot of money. It's a lot of money to me too. And you have to pay it back. So just getting people to the point where they understand what they're getting themselves into. And you can talk to them with a gloomy face, and people are going to do what they want to do. But you still have to do your best to put it out there.
I want to jump in with something else that I'd like for you to add as you answer to this. I'll get clients that are in a situation where they want to start a business and they want to buy a house. And I'm like, well, I don't think you're going to be able to do both. You're going to need to talk to your bank about that. Because I've always taken a position that I want to help people figure out whether or not their business idea is good and then prepare them for financing. That the bank will figure out whether or not you get financing. So if you could just also address that in terms of what do people need to do ahead of time and what do they need to think about when they are considering other debts and leverage.
Go ahead.
I think that's good. I really appreciate what, all has been spoken, especially Bill on that last piece. A good reminder is to, feel free to be honest. Feel free to be honest with your banker. In some cases, people feel like they have to disclose something. That may be the one thing that gets in the way towards the end of it being to achieve financing. If you have any struggle, if you think that you're trying to hold something back because it may affect you on the early stages of getting financing, I would highly encourage you to go ahead and put it all on the table, primarily because we have part of our ability to be responsible lenders to our community is to do our due diligence to make sure that when we are offering you financing, that we're not only just setting ourselves up for success, but really, first and foremost, we want to set up the customer. We want to set up this potential loan opportunity for success because we want to be with the potential client for the long haul. The more successful that the customer can be, we all win together. And the other thing that I would add to that would be to, don't be afraid to do your research. You want to become a subject matter expert. Being an entrepreneur, starting your own business is very exciting. And if somebody's coming to you about this opportunity, it's very excited. It's a very exciting opportunity. But do take the time to learn the industry. Take the time to learn what kind of licensing you need to be prepared to service your customers, the value, the costs, what kind of, how are you going to effectively, efficiently be able to, approach and get to the big picture of the business that they are seeking out to start. And I really appreciate that you brought up the second part of that question, because something to always keep in mind, if you approach a mortgage lender and you tell them that they are self-employed, just like a commercial lender, they're also going to ask for history. If you do not have 2 years of history and your primary source of income is this new business that you're starting, you're going to run into a wall because you now can't support your income. Mortgage lenders need to be able to look at the past to see if you will be able to support your future and being able to make your monthly payments going forward. If your new business is the only source of income, then unfortunately, that's going to be a point where you're not going to be able to continue to move forward with both of those choices.
I think you get the nail on the head as far as, just being honest and laying it all out there to your lender, whether that be your mortgage lender or your commercial lender. Because, on the mortgage side, there are instances where somebody gets pre-approved for a house, they go out and buy 2 new cars, and then they can't afford that house anymore based on the calculations they do. So, yeah, when it comes to something like that, definitely being honest and just laying it all out there.
The one thing that I will add to what I said is what takes priority, right, for the customer. They're really going to dictate a lot of the outcome of the success of the new idea, or whether they're a current business owner. When it comes to what is first on the list. And a lot of times, the customer hasn't maybe left the workforce, and they may be able to stay a little longer and get the house first, and maybe launch their business idea maybe on a part-time basis. So the answer could vary, in addition to what the rest of the panelists have said. What takes priority for the customer is going to be key, and definitely being upfront and honest. Even be better to get really accurate advice.
Right, so we're coming out of this pandemic, and then there's rumors about what the future in terms of the economy is, so it seems like it's changing quite a bit today. And I know this is gonna be different based on each bank's loan portfolio, but what are some of the industries that are attractive right now, given those economic situations, and what are the industries that are a little bit riskier for banks? And I know this is gonna be different for each of you, and I don't know if this is questions that you want to answer, so if you don't.
I'm gonna be cool answers to that, yeah.
Yeah, it's gonna be hard to answer this.
Well, for, I mean, I'm sure next, restaurants.
Yeah, so one of the things we think of,
We're not
like,
crazy about this.
restaurants might be a little bit tough right now because of the pandemic. Gyms and fitness centers might be a little bit tough, but those are just things that I'm kind of thinking about. We're a little further out of the pandemic now, but some industries, based on the research that we have, are going to be affected for a few more years. So that's just, those are things that we share with our customers, but I was just curious if there was a perspective from.
You know, what I would say to that, Lori, is when a situation like COVID, right, kind of uncovers a lot of things that you kind of knew were there, but it really put them on the level, right? So where others have failed, we gotta also see the flip side of that. Some other people thrive. So there are other industries that have made the pandemic a resource to really start something different and kind of put a unique touch to the, whether it's a service or whatever they're selling. Right? So we don't have a crystal ball. I don't think anyone does, and it's hard to answer that question when you ask. But there's always hope. I like to be positive, even in time.
Yeah, I don't know that there's, there's, you know, risky industries, the hotel industry, the restaurants. All that being said, with the right business plan and the right support, if somebody has the reserves and the capital to be able to withstand something like that, I'm not saying that, you know, you can't run into issues. Again, that's why I think something that is really important that I think we've all touched on is being honest and building those relationships. We don't want your business to fail. We're there not only to help provide you and assist you with financing, but we're also there to be resources. A lot of us, you know, particularly I speak for me here, we're community bankers. We're fortunate. I'm fortunate to know Bill, to know other, you know, people in different industries. If I have a customer that's struggling and they're a restaurant owner, okay, I may reach out to a different customer, and not disclose who my direct customer is, but just say, hey, you know, how have you seen this? Can you advise? I have a customer that I'm working with, and I know that I'm calling you because you may be able to potentially speak to the situation so that we can just be an overall good resource to the customer and to keep their business, you know, headed in the right direction to success. So it's really difficult to say what's going to fail and what's not going to fail. But we just, you know, together, you know, working hand in hand, understanding the situation, understanding the industry, understanding the needs. That's the best way to stay up to date and prepare for that.
You know, one thing that came out of the pandemic was businesses figured out ways to deal with it that they wouldn't have figured out had it not been for the pandemic. Especially ways to communicate. I used to work with firms in the engineering industry. And some of these firms were very old line firms where you had to be in the office from 8 to 5 and this and that and the other thing. Pandemic hit, everybody started working from home, they transitioned to a remote workforce. And these are, you know, multi-million-dollar companies who discovered that their people can be just as productive from home as they can be in the office, sometimes more so. And now, after the pandemic is, you know, it's not over, but you know, it's in a different phase. A lot of those companies did not make their people come back to the office, or they made them come back on a limited basis and still gave them the opportunity to work from home. And there's a lot of other examples with the restaurant industry. You know, They had to pivot because they couldn't have people inside a restaurant, so they had to figure out other ways, through various delivery systems and things like that. And a lot of them are still benefiting from that now. So yeah, it's really, and like you said, if you have a good plan and you have a good business mind, and you look at the big picture, any business can make it. It takes a lot of luck sometimes, and you can't really plan for that. But the more you're prepared, I guess, the better, that you'll be able to accept it. But I don't think there's ever going to be a normal, like it was in 2018 or 2019. I don't know if there can be, but that's not a bad thing. I think it's actually good.
So my intent with this panel, since it's being recorded, is to send it out to everybody that comes to me who wants financing, because the information is better coming from the horse's mouth. So what information do you want potential customers to know, other than you're the best bank to pick?
I think they've kind of touched on it, but in a lot of ways, sometimes bankers might be looked at as the bad guy, when at the end of the day, most of us are really trying to work with the customer to do what's best for them. I don't know if y'all add any color to that.
I mean, I agree. Again, also just as somebody mentioned, I don't remember, we're fortunate to have several great financial institutions, a lot of different opportunities. Certainly take your time, do your research, reach out and contact and learn about what's available. I think going ahead and developing and starting a relationship early, like we spoke earlier, I would say is important. You never know. Don't be afraid to ask questions. This kind of ties into the previous question, but we had a scenario where we had a customer who had a great idea for affordable housing. Well, that's a big need in our area, and we wanted to get behind that. We had a good customer, had a great plan, so we got behind that idea, and we were able to assist this customer a little bit different. Instead of maybe setting them up on a new construction loan with limited time of payment before we put them on going from interest only to principal and interest, we extended that. Why? Because we felt that it was important to give them that extra amount of time so that they can't, once they had this project completed, that allowed us to give them extra more time to go ahead and get the apartments rented, be able to start generating some income. There was enough there for them to be able to make the principal payments, but we were able to work with this customer. And I think a lot of financial institutions would speak to that in ways that we want to help them to be successful. There's different ways that we can partner with the client to be able to achieve the desired outcome there.
I used to tell people when I was in a worse position, they were a little intimidated by the banks and bankers. And I tell them, these are some of the, and I'm not just saying this, I'm not kissing up there. These are some of the nicest people out there. And then they really want to help you. And you're their customer. They want to help you because they need your business. They want your business. So don't be intimidated. But it's an intimidating process because you're, exposing yourself to the service. But I would tell, like we've all said, for the person who is looking to borrow money, be honest with be as honest as you possibly can with the person you're working with. And in turn, we will be as honest as we can. And I think that's the basis of the relationship. I live in Northwest Arkansas. And I have to tell you, dealing with some of the lenders and whatnot, it's been a wonderful experience. You guys are very sincere when you help. So I try to take, or used to it. I still do, because Because what we do, I think, is to help people become bankable, right? So maybe they weren't able to get a loan from you guys. They come to us, they get a loan, they pay it back, they start the business, they generate cash flow, and they're in a position where now they have to expand. Now they go to you, right? Because we can't serve you anymore. So we're like, we kind of look at ourselves as like a step to bankability. And I do tell them that we have great, wonderful banking resources.
In addition to what has been said already, that clarity of what exactly is it that you want to get out. Right? What exactly is the purpose? Everyone is going to be at a different level, a different stage. Kind of use the analogy of a vehicle. Anytime I'm thinking about sending somebody your way. So 3 outcomes is what I see when you really put some thought and write down what exactly is that you want to accomplish with your idea. Whether it's something that you're replicating because it's successful already in the industry, or it's something completely new to solve a problem for the consumers, right? So when you look at the big picture and they come to you, my encounters are, they're going to ask you the same questions I'm going to ask. The who, the what, the where, the when, how much it's going to cost you. So if they're able to visit your it's very easy when they come to us. So I see 3 outcomes when they come to you. They're like ready to go, green light, let's move forward. They hit the brakes, put the pause. Oh, they don't want to do it. This is not what I thought it would be. So being able to be sincere with oneself is going to be important. Aside from what we would, ask you to bring back to the meeting.
This is, let's say 247. 247. Okay. So I tell our clients, I'm like, I have no vested interest in what bank they choose, what attorney they choose, what accountant they choose, or any of the other professionals in their life. We just want our clients to be successful. And so I say, you need to like your banker, you need to like your lawyer, and you need to like your accountant and another banker told me, keep a consistent relationship with your banker. Tell them how the business is doing, stay connected, because you may hit a major recession and things get really tough. And so you need to be and have a certain level, and maybe like isn't the right term, but a certain comfort level with intimacy with whoever you choose to be your banker. So that was some advice that was given to me. How do you guys feel about that?
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, the more they share with us, we're dealing with multiple clients on a given day or given week. And, the more that they just voluntarily share with us, I mean, that just makes our job easier.
Yeah, I agree. The last thing we want to happen is for somebody's dreams to die in our parking lot.
Yeah.
We want to be there. We want to help them through this. And whether it's, the right outcome is determining that maybe they're not ready for the process or that they are ready, whatever that looks like, being able to help them, perhaps maybe refer them to additional resources that we have.
So, do you want to go ahead?
I would like to. I'm Bob Meehan with SCORE, as most of you know. And we work with Lori. I send people over to Lori all the time and to the bankers. When I filtered them down to the point where I think they need to move forward and get a business plan, because we as volunteers don't participate in the business, we refer. And I use Lori all the time when I think somebody needs to get an SBA type business plan together that's going to float. Okay. And sometimes I go directly to the bankers. you all can use us as a filter. If somebody comes in and they want counseling, that's what we do. We try and keep the people grounded in their business. And a lot of them just fall to the wayside very quickly because it's obvious they don't have the wherewithal to start the business at that time or ever. It's a hobby, okay? But we like to help the people get to the point where you all can provide your service, okay? And I have a little star I make up called Mabel with an I. You gotta have mentors, accountants, okay? Bankers, insurers, and lawyers. And you have to be familiar with all of them intimately if you're gonna have a business that's gonna grow, okay? We perform some of the mentor tasks, not all of them. And we would like to help you, and we will help you in the forefront. And if you have somebody who you think needs us, you can always send them to us. Score that over.
Okay, since we have a little, anything from out here? Okay, do you guys have anything else on that? I feel like we've covered a lot. Well, I'm trying to get some really good information. Right out in front of me, because this video is going out anytime I get questions about.
Just give them all of our cards.
Right.
Lori, in addition to the last question, being able to report the outcome or the progress of some of the businesses, it's so important. Being able to anticipate what's coming next. A lot of times, looking at the situation through somebody else's eyes makes a difference, right? A lot of the experiences that I can refer to when, I try to meet at least twice a year with my customers, we can anticipate what's coming next for the short term and the long term. Being able to really get some honest, truthful, solid feedback of progress is important.
Yeah, completely agree with that. And in addition, keep for borrowers out there who do these great things with us, keep us posted on what you're doing. And especially if you're not going to pay us, right? Because we don't like to chase after you and whatnot. And we encourage our clients to, if we understand that cash flow can be an issue for a small business, right? So if you have an issue about making a payment or what have you, let us know. I'm sure you would say the same thing. Let us know before things get out of hand, where we can't help you. And I worked in Bank of America years ago, and unfortunately, we had a lot of situations where that happened. So it's not pleasant for everybody. So just keep us posted on your situation. Very often there's ways to work.
Yeah, that's, I think, the big thing that we try to say. That, I had a lending colleague, and she said during, I guess it was probably 2008, she had clients that she was on the phone with every week saying, okay, how much can we pay? Okay, how do we figure this out? And so I think that's the point we try to get across to our clients when we say pick somebody you feel like you're going to be comfortable having an intimate relationship with, because you may be in that position, and keep them informed. So like Bill said, before it gets to that point, somebody knows what's going on with the business. So anything else? I've asked a lot of questions. So anybody else has anything they want to interject or mention that I haven't asked? You guys have been great. It's great information.
All right, thank you guys very much.
A sheet over here that if you registered.
We passed it around already.
Wow, thank you. How wonderful.
Okay. All right. Well, guys, thank you all so very much for coming out, taking time out of your day to come and learn and get a chance to meet some of the lenders that we have throughout our area and
Again, this is part of our C2C or Chamber to Community Programming in partnership with the Arkansas Small Business and Technology Development Center. And I would be a horrible chamber person if I did not thank our sponsors for this program, which is Cox Media, who is our community champion, and Matt Holt, who is our community builder for the. So we appreciate their support to help us be able to put on these great programs, as well as Lori's going to get a link, and we'll be happy to send this link out to anybody that asks for it if you need it. So you can reach out to me, steve@rogerslowell.com, or you can reach out to Lori as well. So thank you guys very much, and I'm going to go ahead and hit stop on this recording so nobody has to see the back of my head for too long.